the whole business establishment, big agricultural lobbies who want to sell to China, who are all going to oppose confronting China in the way that Mr. Husey is talking about. And the result of this was pointed up on 60 Minutes a month ago in a feature it had on China, in which an assistant secretary in Obama's Justice Department stated that China has stolen technology and trade information and secrets from American companies worth, and this is a quote, hundreds of billions of dollars. And 60 Minutes went on to offer a case of a good example of how the Chinese has done this with one American company. After stealing the technology from the American company, then the state government of Massachusetts starts buying that stolen product from the Chinese company. Jeb Bush objected to any talk of sanctions against China in a recent Republican debate by saying, well, we won't be able to sell our soybeans there anymore. You may remember that comment, but his comment is illustrative of something. How do you overcome these attitudes and also this heavy lobbying to do anything
look,
that, like what
I
you're
worked in
talking
Washington
about?
since I was 19 years old. When I came to Washington, when I was at Columbia University Law School, School of International Affairs, in the summer of '73, as an intern for Senator Mike Gravel, he came to me and he met me at the UN where I was working, and he said, I want you to help me build the Alaskan pipeline. He said, first TAPS, and I said, TAPS, what's that? And he said, well, I said, Senator, you're going to build a pipeline across the tundra of Alaska from the northern tip to the southern, right? This is your idea? He said, yes. And I said, you're crazy. He said, no, I'm not. We went around to every senator, we didn't have email in those days, and we asked them, how would you vote? The vote was 95-5 against. Okay, the oil embargo hit 2 months later. The final vote was 95-5 in favor. And all judicial challenges had to be filed at the district court in the District of Columbia, federal district court, within 30 days. And that was it. No other challenges were allowed. The tragedy is the flip side of that, we had to agree that once the pipeline wasn't used and was shut down, we had to dismantle it. That made it, because the environmentalists thought we wouldn't ship any oil through it anyway, okay? That now is still producing, coming out of that pipeline, 700,000 barrels a day, and if you look at the total, it has brought, I was looking at the number the other day, but it's in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of oil that we didn't have to buy from overseas. When Mrs. Ponk said, let's develop and deploy THAAD, let the Americans deploy it, you would have thought everybody had predicted all hell was going to break loose. The Chinese jumped up and down, they got mad, they're not going to do anything. We can sell our soybeans to sub-Saharan Africa, which if you look at the growth rates are growing faster than China. In fact, the fastest growing area of the world right now is southern Africa, the southern cone of Africa, south of Sahara. The idea that you got 7.4 billion people in the world, we can sell our soybeans to people, okay? We have the ability in this country to do what we want. Now, with respect to the stealing of technology, 100% right. Mr. General Keith Alexander was head of NSA. I had him for dinner in this building for members of Congress. That's when he revealed the Chinese are stealing $100 billion in American business technology every year. And that was 2009. And I asked myself, okay, that's another thing the Chinese get away with, because they say, no, you don't want to get mad at us for that because we won't buy your soybeans. Okay? I don't think the Chinese should be running our economy or dictating the American policy, period. Because that $100 billion gets taken out of the technology of every business in America, that goes right to the paychecks of American workers, because that is their productivity. And Larry, you're 100% right, because it's $100 billion a year according to Keith Alexander, and that was when I hosted him for dinner, it was 2009. My guess it's probably higher than that now. And my view is enough is enough. Okay, the Chinese have been getting away with murder, and it's enough. North Koreans have been getting away with murder. I don't want to see another American lose their life from an axe or a missile or a South Korean ship being blown away, because we won't confront these crooks and thieves and you know what, in North Korea. Period.
Thank you, Peter.
That's what I
Let's
do.
give Peter, stay right there. Let's give This is your insignia. And also, I know you're a golfer, right?
Yes, I am.
This is ICAS hat.
Does
Next
it
time-
improve your score?
Yeah, next time, when we play, I want to put this thing on. Okay?
Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you. Thank you
And
very
as I
much.
said, if any of you would like the full remarks of my speech, I would just get my business card, which is over there, and I'll be happy to email it to you, okay?
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Ken.
So take your name tag, put it on top of David, until David shows up. Okay, cordial questions for later part. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce Jim Lewis, but David, what about Mingo? Why don't you come? Because we're building a bench. He's 11th grader in high school, right? So he will introduce you.
Thank you, Dr. Kim, for this great opportunity to introduce Dr. Lewis. James Andrew Lewis is the Senior Vice President and Program Director of the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Before joining CSIS, Jim worked at the Department of State and Commerce as a Foreign Service Officer and a member of the Senior Executive Service. His government experience includes work on Asian political military issues as a negotiator on conventional arms and technology transfers. Since coming to CSIS, Jim has authored numerous publications. His recent work focuses on cybersecurity, including the best-selling Cybersecurity for the 44th Presidency, which was commended by President Obama. Having received his PhD from University of Chicago, Jim is an internationally recognized expert whose comments frequently appear in the media. His current research examines sovereignty on the internet, cybersecurity norms, warfare, and innovations. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Lewis.
Thanks to everyone, and thanks for inviting me to speak at this session. I think that the question of North Korean cyber capabilities is a fascinating one. Let me just grab the water. And one we've been looking at CSIS for a while. North Korea began to develop cyber warfare capabilities in the mid-1990s. And originally it started as an outgrowth of electronic warfare. In the past few years, it's developed an impressive cyber attack capability, cyber espionage capability. The estimates of how many people North Korea has dedicated to this range from 1,800 to 6,000. They're in specialized units. And they use these new capabilities for intelligence and espionage, for political action, and for coercive purposes. The North has used cyber attack, as opposed to espionage, at least 3 times in the past few years, and quite possibly there was a 4th occasion in 2009. Pretty low-level stuff, but they have made multiple efforts to use this. Cyber attack is one of a number of military technologies the North, has developed to maintain parity with the South and to compensate for its weakness. The other technologies include electronic warfare, nuclear weapons and long-range missiles, as you've heard. But all these efforts are hampered by their technological backwardness. In this one area, cyber attack, they may have a bit of an advantage. For some years now, they have put a considerable amount of resources into it and have now can show the fruits of their labor. If you were looking for external connections, so far there doesn't appear to be any evidence that the Chinese have helped the North Koreans on their cyber attack capabilities. It does look, however, that there is a connection between North Korea and Iran. And so it's quite possible that Iran and North Korea have been helping each other. The attacks launched against Sony were very similar. to the attacks used by Iran against Saudi Aramco. So there does appear to be some connection. It's similar to the proliferation connection when it comes to cyber attack between North Korea and Iran. North Korea uses its attack capabilities in two ways. The first is for what they might call coercive diplomacy. So I was in Seoul in 2013 in April during the incident where the North Koreans attacked several banks and a television station, and I was meeting with government officials, and they didn't seem particularly perturbed. And so I said, well, hey, you guys are supposedly under a big cyber attack, why aren't you more excited? And they said, oh, they do this all the time. It's a way to signal that they want something. So think of this as coercive diplomacy. It is similar in that sense to some of the other provocations we've seen, as a way to shape opinion in the South, as a way to shape diplomatic relations with the Republic of Korea and with the United States, as a diplomatic tool. It's one that we would reject because it's coercive, but this is how the North appears to use it. They also use it to prepare for the eventuality of some kind of conflict. How serious they are in that, I don't know, but they do have special purpose forces that are trained to operate in rear areas and create disruption. And it's likely that these special purpose forces are in some ways integrated with the cyber attack capabilities. You're all probably familiar with a recent incident involving Korea hydro and nuclear power. This was a bit misstated in the press. The North Koreans were unable to get into the control systems, but they probably were able to extract useful data if you were going to have some kind of attack later on. So this is the two things that appear to drive North Korean capabilities. Coercive diplomacy, building the potential for attack. They have other efforts that involve espionage, of course, as every country does. And they do appear to use cyber means for political shaping through projecting opinions into the South. So an extensive effort, right? That said, cyber attack is not some asymmetric fix that's going to significantly expand DPRK offensive capabilities. There's a limit to what you can do with a cyber attack. Right? You can disrupt command and control. You can disrupt weapon systems. You can possibly cause physical damage. It's not clear that North Korea is yet at the level where they could do these kind of things. They could disrupt command and control. They probably could not disrupt advanced weapon systems or cause damage to physical infrastructure, critical infrastructure, because these require a high level of skill. The Iranians aren't there yet, but they're coming close, and so it seems safe to assume that if the Iranians get this capability, eventually North Korea would get it as well. Provocation remains the key indicator for North Korean cyber activities. Most of the big events we've seen, whether in the South or in the United States against Sony, have intended to be provocative, to shape diplomacy, to retaliate for perceived slights, and to defend the regime. Sony was interesting in a number of ways. The first is that no one should have any doubt that it was North Korea. Right? And so there was a long debate in the press, but it was mainly ill-informed. This was North Korea. The U.S. knew that by using a combination of intelligence techniques, including human intelligence, traditional signals intelligence, and cyber intelligence. So it was very clear that North Korea was responding to Sony. There was many incidents that would have pointed, warned you that this was coming. In some ways, the Sony episode is not an indicator of North Korea's capabilities as much as it is an indicator of Sony's weak defenses. For example, it's not a good defensive strategy to have a file, an unencrypted file on your network labeled passwords, right? This is what Sony had. And so therefore, when the North Koreans got in, it didn't take them very long to be able to take full advantage of what they've got. So there's a basic cybersecurity tip for you. If you're going to label your file, if you're going to have a file with passwords in it, maybe call it something else. Call it like recipes or something. But in any case, North Korea was, however, unpleasantly surprised by Sony. You originally saw some delay in the US reaction. It was unclear to me why the American government was unwilling to identify North Korea as the responsible entity, but they were for a while. At the same time that you saw the Sony incident, you saw another incident involving Sands Casino. The US did not make a big fuss about this because it was in the middle of the Iranian nuclear talks, so that makes some sense. Why would you want to disrupt the talks by coming out and accusing Iran? But not accusing North Korea didn't make sense, and so eventually what the US did was it became worried that if it did not react to these North Korean provocations, we would see more of it. Right? The North Koreans crossed a line that had never been crossed before. They had attacked an American company in the United States. They had disrupted data. They did not cause physical destruction, but they erased information. They put the company under tremendous pressure. So there was an effort by the US to signal that this was unacceptable. Right? And the intent was not only to signal North Korea, but to signal other countries that might engage in these activities as well, particularly China and Iran. And I think the North Koreans were a little shocked because for a long time, people assumed that if you did something in cyberspace, you were invisible, right? No one knew who was responsible. And in point of fact, that was true in 2009 when it was probably North Korea that did actions against some US agencies and some South Korean agencies, but it's not true now. It's not true for the United States because the Department of Defense has made a significant investment in improving its abilities to attribute a cyber attack. And the ability to say, we know it was you and we will take action in response,